So some of you are here for the first time. So you can find the recordings of the previous webinars on this link. Okay, before I start the webinar, I just want to set down a few ground rules. You have all seen the chat feature. Some of you have used this also. Some of you, currently you are typing in stuff, so you have seen the chat feature. During the webinar, I will ask you, do you have any questions? I'll put this question to you, and that is when you should type your queries in the chat window. If you type in your questions, your queries or anything while I'm speaking something else, then there is a high probability that I will miss out on your questions. So if I'm talking about something and you have a question in your head, please hold on to it till I ask you for it, till I ask, do you have any questions? And let's say I'm talking about a slide which is talking about some topic, and you have a question related to something else, then hold on to that question till the end of the webinar. So your questions, when I ask you, do you have any questions? So those questions should be related directly to the stuff that is being discussed at that point. So the stuff that is on that slide at that point. Otherwise, the other people might get a little bored, or they might feel that we are going off topic. So after the end of the webinar, there will be a slot where you can ask everything else. So any question that is not directly related to the slides, please, you can feel free to write it down somewhere and keep with you, and ask it at the end of the webinar. So some things about GRE exam, I'm sure all of you already know. GRE exam is conducted throughout the year, so 5 days a week, Monday to Friday it's held. So you can take the exam whenever you are ready. That's the trick. You should take the exam whenever you are ready. You can postpone your exam date. Let's say you booked the exam date thinking that you will be ready. In case you are not, you can postpone the date as well. All of you know this. You can take the GRE multiple times. The limit is that you can take it 5 times in a year. So in a year you can take 5 times, and the time duration between 2 attempts should be 21 days. So if you take the exam, GRE exam on 1st September and you want to take it again, then you will be able to take it on 23rd September. So you will not be able to take it on 15th September or whatever. So multiple times are allowed, yes, but there is a limit on the maximum number of times per year, and also the time duration between 2 attempts. Ideally you should not even think of taking it twice. It's an expensive exam, right? And so prepare well, take it in such a way that you do not have to retake it. So exam retaking, if you are very close to the deadlines, then it's advisable that you take one attempt and take it seriously. But in case you do not get a score of your choice, then obviously you will have to retake it. And in that case, plan your exams, plan your second attempt in such a way that you don't miss the deadlines. Now score reporting, the GRE score reporting feature is really unique. Let's say that you took your GRE 3 times, 1, 2 and 3, right? And let's say in the first attempt you got 300. In the second attempt, let's say you got 325. And in the third attempt, let's say you got 320, right? So now while choosing the colleges to which you can send the score, so when you do that, you can actually choose to report only the second score. So if you choose only the second attempt score to be sent to universities, the universities will not know that you have taken it 2 times more. So that's a huge advantage. This means that you don't have to worry about what will the universities think if they come to know that I have taken it 4 times, 5 times. So you don't have to worry about that. Universities will get only the score that you decide to send. So if you obviously here you should decide to send 325, but if you want to send a 300 score, then you can do that as well, and the universities will not know your these 2 scores. So a lot of power in your hand. you can choose to send this score you in irrespective of how many attempts you take, how many number of times you take the GRE. Universities will see only one score, right? So they will never ever differentiate between somebody who got a 325 in the first attempt and somebody who got a 325 in the third attempt, let's say, because they will not know how many times you have taken the exam. So any questions? So GRE, as you see, is very very flexible. If you compare it with the Indian exams such as your GATE, etc., the GRE is extremely flexible, right? Any other questions on the flexibility part of the GRE exam? Okay, so Ayushi, if you like cancel the exam, then there's a cancellation fee of $50. But if you reschedule it, so let's say your $195 is your GRE registration fees. If you want to cancel the exam, then you pay you lose, so your refund is $145, not 50, not the entire $195. So there is a cost involved, and it varies also. I mean, if you are like cancelling just 2 days before or 3 days before, then you do not get any refund, the entire amount goes, right? Ankita, the score is not averaged, so that is another myth. The score is not averaged. Your scores will be for each attempt will appear separately, and you decide which score you want to send to which university. Okay, Ankita? If there are no questions, then I can move on. Any questions? Same thing, postponement. You will postpone only after you cancel one and reschedule, right? So you can say the postponement fees is $50. But if you do it very close to the exam, like 3 days or 2 days before the exam, then then you will lose the entire amount. Deepak, when you register for the GRE exam, you will use an email ID. So the details will come on your email ID. Moreover, on gre.org, your login, your account will be created just like an email account. So your account will be created where you will have a login ID and password. So you can go and go to your account by using that login ID and password and see everything. Is your exam date booked? What are the exam dates available? What's the score? Which schools you sent these scores to? All of the information will be there in your gre.org account. Okay, Deepak? So first step is go to www.gre.org and create your account. You can see, Parag, the thing is that as I said, go to gre.org and see the availability. For instance, in Delhi, the seats, all these GRE seats are available, are booked till September. So I don't know where you are from. So and this information varies from the test center to test center. So go to gre.org, create your login ID, password, and see the available. Ayushi, you can choose the center and the exam slot. You can choose the day, you can choose the test center, you can choose the exam slot also. All of you know that it's a standardized test. That means that everybody in the world, the exam center is maintained at the same standards, whether right from the temperature to the type of pages and pencils that you are given. So everything is standardized, and which is a huge advantage. Universities can easily compare candidates. So somebody who has got a 300 from India, and if somebody has got a 300 from Africa somewhere, so a 300 is 300. Unlike other stuff, unlike your academic record, if you have got a 60% from some Indian university, it is not equivalent to 60% from some foreign university in some country, right? So with academic record and everything else, there is a subjectivity that comes into the picture. But with GRE, the score is sacrosanct. Whether it's 280, 300, 320, doesn't matter who you are and which country you are from. So it's very easy for universities to compare candidates, because the GRE exam is a very standardized test. Another huge advantage of the GRE exam that it is a fixed pattern. the pattern does not change. A lot of Indian exams such as the CAT, the pattern is not fixed. You don't know how many questions you may get, you don't know what's the time limit. So it's difficult to prepare, and because of the unpredictability, those exams seem to be far more difficult than they probably actually are. But with GRE, the exam, it's a fixed pattern, so you can, it helps you prepare also, and it helps you score better because you do not have to worry about what the pattern is. The syllabus is also fixed. What's the meaning of syllabus? I mean, what type of things you should prepare. So the GRE ETS, the body that conducts the GRE exam, so they release an official guide. It's called OG, official guide, which gives the entire syllabus, in maths especially, you know what is going to be tested. I mean, integration, double integrals, differentiation, they don't come. That is not in the syllabus of the GRE, and so they will never come. So the syllabus is fixed. There is so actually GRE is a very, very predictable exam. The GRE always has 3 sections: analytical writing assessment, where you have to write 2 essays. Then there is the math part or quantitative part. So there are 2 sections of quantitative. Then there is the verbal part. Again, there are 2 sections. So this structure is fixed. You will get 1 issue essay, you will get 1 argument essay. There will be you will get 2 math sections, you will get 2 verbal sections. So you are it's not that it will never happen that you will get only 1 math section. It will never happen that you will get 5 AWA essays. So the structure is fixed. Another interesting thing about the GRE is that it's a computer adaptive test. So as I said, in maths you will get 2 sections, in verbal you will get 2 sections. So let's say that after the AWA section you get a math section, and that the first math section of everybody in the world will be of equal difficulty level. If you do well in that first section of math, then the second section would be of a higher difficulty level. If you don't do well, then the second math section will be of a lower difficulty level. Now, what is the importance of difficulty level? The importance of difficulty level is that higher difficulty level questions carry higher marks, lower difficulty level questions carry lower marks. So in maths there are like total 40 questions split into 2 sections. So the scoring varies. The scoring scale is 130 to 170. So basically 40 points, right? So these 40 questions and it's equal to 40 points, yes, but each question is not worth 1 point. Among these 40 questions, the higher difficulty level questions may carry 2-3 points, and the lower difficulty level questions may carry 0.25 points. You never know. So the 40 questions is not equivalent to 40 marks. Similarly for verbal, you again have 40 questions equivalent to 40 points, but total 40 questions equivalent to 40 points. Each question is not equivalent to 1 point. So it's very important that you do well in the first math section that you get, and the first verbal section that you get. Take your time, do it well. So if you do it well, then the next section will be of a higher difficulty level. Then it means that you will have higher chances of getting a good score. If you are getting it of a lower difficulty level, then what might happen is that even if you do very well in the second section, you are not getting a full mark because the lower difficulty level questions carry lower marks. So understood? Everybody clear? Abhijit, go to I see that you are not a Jamboree student. So the Jamboree students, they get a book called ETS official guide. You can also buy it. Go on Flipkart and buy the ETS official guide, GRE official guide. You will see the syllabus there. Samarjit, calculator is not allowed in the exam. Abhijit, nobody knows. Only one fixed thing is that the first section that you will get are the 2 essays, AWA. After that you can get 1 section of math, probably next can be 1 section of verbal, or you can get the first section of verbal. So the structure, I mean which sections you will get in what order after the AWA essay is not fixed. Siddharth, your question is, if we do very well in first and then bad in second, is it better than doing decent in both? But I guess it is hard to know that. Yes, Siddharth, GRE, just to throw you guys off, they also have an unscored section, right? So in addition to this, they will have an unscored section, which can be either maths or verbal, and you will not know which one is unscored. So the first section that you get of maths or first section that you get of verbal, that may be an unscored section, right, and which is like no weightage. So the key is that you do well on every section, obviously, right? So take it slow, do well on every section, don't get nervous. So Ravi, today, throughout the webinar, I will be saying little bit things about strategy for the exam. So just there is no one piece of strategy. There are multiple things that you should do. Atit, your question is Jamboree materials all full for preparation for GRE? Yeah, actually I think we give quite a lot of material, all the official material, plus we have our own books. There are a lot of our students right now, so I think on the webinar today, so I think they will be in a better position to answer this question. From our end, we feel that it's enough. We give you 2 official books and then we give 2 of our books, so that's enough material to practice. We feel that that's enough material to practice. See, Abhijit, to begin with, you will never know which section carries what marks. So you should, your objective is to get every question correct. Yes, Ayushi, you can edit within a section. So so within a section, for you can go back, you can skip questions, you can change your answer, you can do everything. But once a section is over, then the second section, you cannot, once you're on section number 2, let's say, you cannot go back and change section number 1. But while you are on section number 2, you can within the time limit you can do anything. Somewhere in maths, each section, maths and verbal both, each section has 20 questions. In verbal, to solve these 20 questions you have got 30 minutes. In maths, to solve those 20 questions you have got 35 minutes. So this is like very very basic information about the GRE exam structure. So you can also find the entire information on gre.org, which is the official website of GRE. Right, okay, then moving on, let's try to spend not too long on one slide, because then everybody else, as I said, might start to get a little bored. Now, how to start your preparation? First of all, there is no standard rule. I can't tell you that you will take 2 months, or I can't tell you that you will take 1 month. It's very, very subjective. I have seen students take 1 month to prepare and get high scores, and I have seen students take 6 months and still get a low score. So what is the ideal time for preparation is very, very, very subjective. Only you will know. And second part, what is the best preparation mode? Should you go for online classes? Should you go for classroom classes? Again, that is very subjective. So I will just list out the different things that people do. You will have to choose what will work for you. One thing a lot of students do is that self-study, especially engineering students or any student who stay in hostels. They do a lot of self-study. Self-study means you prepare on your own. So you buy the books, you surf the internet, you prepare on your own. So that's self-study. So it works. It works if you are if you are self-motivated, if you are bright. It definitely works. It works for a lot of people. Another thing that students go for is classroom study. So these are the students who come to coaching centers like Jamboree, where we give you a fixed schedule. So you have to pay a fees. So obviously, if there's a class at 10 a.m. in the morning, you will come for the class. So people who want a little bit of help in bringing discipline to their study structure, or people who want some strategies and shortcuts, they usually prefer the classroom study, right? Otherwise, on weekends, if you are the type of person who can wake up on your own and start studying on your own, then you should be going for self study, but if you are the type of person who, it helps if you have somebody giving you a schedule, somebody pushing you to do things, somebody giving you homework, then classroom study is better suited for you. Third is hybrid. This is what actually in Jamboree we have a combination of classroom study plus webinars. So after the classes are over, we have series of webinars through which we cover the rest of the material. So students, once the classes are done, they can go to the webinars and they can finish the rest of the material and they can take their exams. So we have some Jamboree students here. So have you guys attended the classroom, the book 2 webinars? Anybody attended the book 2 webinars? So Ravi, you have? Okay. So actually once your classes are over, that's when you go for the book 2 webinars. So again, a lot of people find those helpful, mainly because even after your classes are over, you are getting a schedule using which you can finish the rest of the material. That's a feedback we have got, that they feel that they are still studying, that there is a discipline level maintained in their preparation. Otherwise also, there are some of you who have attended Isha, Ankita, etc. So if you you have attended, so you probably know whether you found those helpful or not, so you are better judges of that. When you guys enroll, Parag, those of you who are Jamboree students, once you probably have got access to the online testing platform, right? jamboreeeducation.com. That is our online testing platform. So if you might have got login details to the platform, and it has the calendar of the webinars, right? Also also you get emails, right? So Isha, Ankita, have you got the schedule, the webinar schedule? So Jyoti, for the GRE online program, if you have enrolled for the comprehensive program, then you get access to the webinars. So so it happens in a process, like you finish your classes, you go on to the webinar series. There are 4 webinars a week, so you go on to the webinar. Actually there are 5 webinars a week now, I guess. So then you finish your book 2 and then you move on. So Jyoti, yes, if you are on the comprehensive, then you should have access to those webinars. The calendar has all the details, login details. When you log into your platform, you should see the webinar calendar, right? Okay, so as I said, it's your way. A lot of students go for self-study. I had also taken GRE, so in my time I had preferred self-study, mainly because the city where my college was, we did not have any coaching center. So a lot of students, even now, they go for self-study. Lot of students, like a lot of you here, I'm sure you have your own reasons for coming to a coaching company, right? So so you have to decide whether you want to prepare on your own, or you want to go for a coaching center, like us. So those of you who are enrolled with us, so why did you enroll? There are some of you who are enrolled with Jamboree. So why did you enroll? Why did you not do self-study? What's the reason? Okay, so I see a lot of reasons, and these are usually the reasons that especially working professionals, they are it helps if there's somebody to wake you up on on weekends, to come and attend the class. Given the option, you will probably just sleep, So yes, Ravi, your question is preparing of GRE, professional environment. Okay, yeah, true. Keeping track of how you are doing. Moreover, in a classroom, one added advantage of classroom is that sometimes when you are studying, studying yourself, and you are, let's say, taking a mock test, you have got 20 out of 25, and you feel that you are doing well. But when you are in a classroom, if you see that the rest of the people are getting 25 out of 25, so you know that you can do much better. So that's one added advantage of being in a classroom. And when it happens to a lot of people, they sometimes they come to classes doing homework and they feel that, oh, I have got 20 out of 25 correct, so that's great. But when you see half of your classmates doing better than you, so you push yourself more next time. So peer pressure or the group study is it helps a lot. Abhijit, a tough question. Everybody who has studied, most people will feel that they are the center that they are studying is good. So for me it's very tough to tell you which of our 27 centers is the best. There is nothing like best. We have a standard methodology which and all the teachers follow the same. So it's very tough question for me to answer. Okay, so as I said, it's very important for you to pick a method early, very early. Once you have decided to take GRE, that's when you should pick your method and then start working on it, right? Tinish, your question is, do Jamboree provide correspondence program? We do not have correspondence program. We have an online program. So where you don't have to come to the center, the entire course is in online. There are I think some Jyoti and there are some people who I saw who are on the online program. Atit, your question is, what if we invest more than 6 hours of study a day? Will it hamper? I think Atit, more than 6 hours of study might be a little overkill. Close to your exam, like 2-3 weeks before your exam, that's when you might want to do 6 hours of study. I mean, I'll cover it. It's not about quantity, it's about how you prepare, right? So your GRE preparation, see, I teach GRE, and I see this problem. So can you guys hear me now? Can everybody hear me? Okay. Right. Alright, so as I said, I am a GRE teacher. I teach the verbal portion of GRE, and I face this problem a lot, that students who come to the class, they are not focused on GRE. They have all these other things that, oh, I want to improve my grammar, or my vocabulary is bad. So or that maths, my maths is weak. So basically, when you are starting to prepare for GRE, your focus should be only on GRE, only and only on GRE. So your GRE preparation is not about grammar improvement, by the way. Yes, you should improve your grammar, but that's a long-term plan. That should be a long-term plan. Prepare only for that much grammar that is required to crack the GRE. While preparing for GRE, it's not mandatory for you to know what is a subject, what is a gerund, what is an object. So leave that aside. Stick to the programs, stick to the stuff that is required or that is going to be tested on the GRE. It is very easy to get distracted by a lot of extraneous information, a lot of extra information. So and as I said, you have to have a little bit of grammar, but focus on only that portion that is going to be tested on the GRE. Vocabulary improvement, again, I mean, this is I see students, actually I had a couple of students who were studying words from the Oxford Dictionary. Can you imagine? I mean, but that's not, that's not how it works. GRE tests you on a certain set of words, so no point in learning 3000 4000 words. Even if you have to learn some words, then what you should be doing is that, work on the or remember or memorize the words that are frequently tested on GRE, instead of picking up an Oxford Dictionary and trying to memorize the words. Then you will be spending 5 years trying to memorize words. That will not help. So for instance, we some of you are classroom students, so you can probably relate to it better, that we have a certain way of teaching words where it's just focused on the GRE. Only that much of meaning, only that many words which are going to be tested on the GRE. Nothing more, nothing less. Okay. So as I said, the GRE preparation should be focused only on GRE, right? Of course, these are vocabulary improvement, grammar improvement. These are long-term projects that you can take, but if you are, they might or might not help you on cracking the GRE exam. Similarly, it's not about your improvement of your math skills. ultimately you have to score good on the maths that is being tested on the GRE. You might be thinking that, okay, so isn't this obvious? But apparently it's not. Every year we get students who do end up doing a lot of extra stuff that is never going to be tested on GRE. You just have to pick up an official guide to know what is going to be tested on the GRE. So keep your GRE preparation focused and to the point. Pramat Kashyap, yes, the words that you have in the flashcards and the vocab app, all of that, on our platform, you have the vocabulary portion, the GRE book, and that's more than enough. Pramat, if you are able to memorize those words, I guarantee, you will not, you will not be in trouble. And by the way, there are 40 points. 40 points, in GRE you have to earn you have to earn 80 points. You know that, right? The GRE score starts at 260 and goes out to 340. So basically the computer gives you 260, right? So you have to kind of get these 80 points. Now these 80 points, 40 maths, 40 verbal. So in the maths part you anyway don't need verbal. Agreed? So, and in 40 verbal portion, you have got 20 points for reading comprehension, the passages that is, and you have got 20 questions for the fill up the blanks, the sentence portion, right? So RC, CR plus RC, basically the critical reasoning and RC. So that is 20, and 20 points for the fill up the blanks type. Now in these 20 also you don't need your vocabulary stuff, right? So, and of the 10 points that test you on vocabulary, about 10 are of the are words where you need vocabulary. All of you have been preparing for GRE now. Some of you have been preparing with us also. You have seen the official guide material, you have seen the ETS test, you have seen this, right? So 10 points are based purely on vocabulary. So if you get everything right, you still get 330. Agreed? If you get everything right, you still get 330. If you not get a single point on vocabulary based questions, you still get a 330. Students usually get bored with reading comprehension and they make silly mistakes, but reading comprehension and critical reasoning are the easiest to score if you just stay focused and not get bored by the RCs. How many of you get bored with the reading comprehension? So everything means everything non-vocab, Akshay. So what I'm saying, if you get all other non-vocab part right, you get 330. Okay, Akshay. So Ravi, yes, everybody gets bored. And the moment you see a long passage, students become demotivated, so they are anyway reading with a very, oh my god, this is going to be so tough kind of mode. That's why they make mistakes. So first of all, get rid of your boredom and fear of RCs. RC 20 points are very easy to pick, right? So Atit, your question is, Magush keeps saying to learn vocab in context, but in GRE it's just a list. Okay, so it is context, yes, but you still have to know the word, right? And there is a group name also, so you are actually learning in context. Anubrata, the first step would be to just RCs and CRs are not that tough. Just first try to get those 20 points. Then yes, if you are a student, you know that our teaching methodology focuses on keywords, etc. So try to do that and practice. Ultimately, a lot will happen if you practice. On our online platform, those of you who have started using our online platform, there are a lot of sectional tests which are of different difficulty levels. So keep practicing. The GRE book 2 has a lot of material, so keep practicing. Deepak, okay, this is not a specific session on strategies. You will just talk to your faculty, but as I said, we are going to do a couple of questions just to kind of show the things that you can do. Another very important thing is that do not ignore AWA. I'm sure you know that AWA section is the only section where universities impose a cutoff. So the cutoff for the AWS section starts at 4. So if you don't get a 4 out of 6, minimum 4 out of 6, you will not be able to meet the cutoffs of the top 50 colleges, right? Some colleges might even have cutoffs of 4.5. So like, in the middle of your GRE preparation, from the middle of your GRE preparation, start writing one issue, one argument, right? And we have AWS sessions. Our webinar series has AWS sessions. Try not to miss the AWS session, right? Let's do one question. Those of you who are Jamboree students already know the answer. Akshay, the maximum score in AWS is 6. So all of you know this question. The Jamboree students, you have seen this question. You have solved it also. So just take a minute and see. I just wanted to show some stuff to you. So just to show that it's not about vocabulary. It's actually more about understanding the question. So if you read this question, and this is what I wanted to show about keywords, right? Some things you need, very basic rules that you need to understand. That when there is something and there is a comma, then there is something, and then there is a comma, and if there is there is nothing like and, or this kind of joining, etc. If there is nothing like this, then this portion describes the portion that comes before, right? So this portion describes this. So everybody knows this. Agreed? So if in a sentence comes in this form, something here, comma, something here, comma, so this portion describes this portion. If there is an and or, then obviously this rule does not apply, right? So let's read this question. The labor union and the company's management, despite their long history of unfailingly blah 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 disagreement on nearly every issue. So this portion that has starting from here, this portion is describing the portion that is coming here, and again this portion is going to describe what is coming here, right? So this is the first step. Second thing is that there are some keywords that show contrast. So despite is a word that shows contrast. Disagreement, now this is a negative word. Nevertheless also shows contrast. So these are the keywords. And when after you do a few of them, you will get an idea. Now let's look at the blank. So the labor union and the company's management, despite their long history of, let's say you don't know the meaning of this word, but you know the meaning of the word disagreement. So the labor union and the management, they have a long history of disagreement on nearly every issue, right? Have nevertheless means even then reached an unexpectedly. Okay, so if two people, if two things, they have a long history of disagreement, what will be unexpected? If it will be unexpected if they agree, right? So the thing is, so we are looking for something about agreement here. So because that will be unexpected. If you read the portion afterwards, it says still tentative. Yes, whatever it is, it's still tentative. Tentative means, what's the meaning of tentative? Tentative means it's not final. It's like iffy, not final, whatever. So these people, even though they have a long history of disagreement, so they have come unexpectedly to an agreement. What type of agreement? Tentative. That means not final. So we are looking for something like not final. Not final, but still unexpected. So what's your answer? Swift. Why not hesitant? Why not hesitant? Because if it is hesitant, then it would not be unexpected. It will be expected. Similarly, reluctant. Why not reluctant? If it's reluctant, then it will again not be unexpected. When two parties are always having disagreement, so it will be expected for them to be reluctant about an agreement. it will be expected of them to be hesitant about an agreement, but the sentence has the word unexpected. So swift is unexpected. And why not conclusive? Because it says it's tentative, right? Conclusive would also have been a good choice, but we have the word tentative here, so that's why we are not going with the word conclusive. Onerous means, what's the meaning of onerous? Yes, anybody? What's the meaning of the word onerous? Yes, troublesome, taking a lot of effort kind of thing, burdensome. Yes, but even if you don't know the word, you are able to bring it down to two options. So what I wanted to point out to you is that these words are not that difficult. These words are not at all difficult, but reading the question, how to get meaning out of it, that is more important. Let's do another one. Again, I think Jamboree students might have seen this. I'm kind of just trying to show you and these are all official questions, by the way. Those of you who are Jamboree students, these are questions from the official guide of GRE. That means these are the questions that had come in GRE exams. So the GRE official guide has questions which have come in the exam. Startlingly means surprisingly. Original means something that is not copied or original. So even if you didn't know the word startlingly, let's say you don't know the word startlingly, but you know the meaning of the word original. The original writing means it's not copied from somebody, it's her own. Okay, so she went further than any other 20th century author in English. Okay, so forget this part, perhaps in any language. So these portions are just kind of emphasizing on how original her writing is. Okay, so and now what did it do? Something, literary, language and form. So here in this type of questions you have to check the options. So to be original, for something to be original, what do you have to do to the literary, language and form? Do you stabilize? Is stabilize related in any way to original? It does not. Canonizing, again, let's say you don't know the meaning of the word canonizing, but reinventing definitely has to do with original. The word inventing means that you come up with something new. So this looks like a good option. Now second blank, you see, doing something to stylistic conventions. Doing something to stylistic conventions. What's the meaning of convention? That is accepted, that is regular, that is easily available or more prevalent, that is called convention. So what do you have to do to conventions to have original, to be original? Do you have to praise? To be original, do you have to praise the regular things? Do you have to misunderstand? Of course not. You have to undo. So the conventions you have to undo, that means you have to break them to be original. So undoing. Now, and a dash a rich and diverse structure of meaning. And again, do something to have a rich and diverse structure of meaning. So what do? Is borrowing related to original? It's not. Borrowing means somebody has already done it and you have kind of borrowed it. Replicate means copy. So do you copy to be original? No, you don't. Introducing. So that's how you solved. And these are even though it's a 3 blank question, you just have to stick with one clue, see how it fits, and it's very easy to do it. This question, after you have learned the tricks and all, it will actually take you about 30 seconds to solve this question. Right? Everybody understood? Again, as I said, I'm sure almost all of you knew 90% of the words. Almost everybody knew the meanings of 90% of the words, but still you could have probably got this wrong. There is a fear of RCs, long or short. There is a fear of RCs. By the way, short RCs are more difficult than long RCs. Long RCs, yes, they have length problem, but otherwise short RCs are more difficult. So let's everybody take again. This is an official passage from the official book. So a lot of the Jamboree students have solved this already. Still take a minute and read it. Read the passage. I'll put up the question later on. So those of you who are done, just you can read the question. With RC, with reading comprehension, it is extremely important to know how to read the passage. You have to identify the different parts of an RC passage. The RC passages that are chosen for GRE or that are chosen by GRE are not random passages. They always they have a flow. They have a certain flow. So your job while reading the passage should be to identify the flow, right? So let me demonstrate with this example. So I'll just read it aloud, bear with me. I enjoyed A Dream of Light and Shadow, Portraits of Latin American Women Writers. So this is a book, obviously, everybody can make it out. For the same reasons that as a child I avidly consumed women's biographies, colon, whenever there is a colon, it is then the portion coming after the colon is an elaboration of what is before, right? So the fascination with how the biographical details of another female's life are represented and interpreted, right? So then the second, A Dream, so the book's name is shortened. A Dream offers a rich read, varied in both the lives and texts of the women portrayed and the perspectives and styles of the 16 essayists, right? So till this portion, everybody will agree that the author is very positive about the book, right? So from here, from the beginning till essays, the author is very positive. Now note the word yet. The moment you see words like yet, although, however, that means there is a contrast happening. There is going to be now a change in thought process. So till now the author was being very positive. He is saying it's a rich read, it's fascinated, blah blah blah. So he avidly consumed. So all these show that the author is positive about this book. Then you see the word yet. Yet as an adult, I have come to demand of any really great book. Another thing, whenever you see something quoted under quotations, this word has a different meaning. Otherwise, what do you mean by great? I'm sure everybody knows what's the meaning of great. But in this context, by putting the word great in quotes, the author is indicating that in the passage, it's indicated that this word does not have the usual meaning, right? Really great book. So what he's trying to say is that he does not kind of consider this book to be a great book now. That's why it's in the quote. So demand of any really great book, a self-consciousness about the tenuous nature of representations of reality, a critical contextualization of florid detail, and a self-awareness of the role of ideology in our lives. Again, very big words, really big words that you may not know the meaning of, but still, stick with it, right? In these critical senses, in these means what? Whatever was being described in the previous sentence. In these critical senses, a dream is inadequate, which is, when you say something is inadequate, that means it's negative. So the passage has this kind of flow, a distinct flow, that till the point of yet, the passage is positive. From yet till the last sentence, the passage is negative about the book, about this dream wala book, right? Now the strategy is that anytime you get a question on this passage, that is asking about good things about the book, so the answer will be restricted to the portion coming before yet. If you have to answer a question that is about the negative aspects of the book, the answer will be restricted to the portion starting with yet. So that's the trick. So to find the answer for a positive thing about the book, you don't have to bother about reading the portion that comes after yet. To answer a question about the negative aspects of the book, you don't have to bother about reading the previous part before you get. So here that's what your flow of the passage is. It's a short passage but still little tricky. Okay, now look at this type of questions. So those of you who have seen GRE questions, it's fine, but some of you may not have seen GRE questions till now. So so this is a type of question where you, I mean, 1, 2, 3, one of these, A can be the correct answer, B can be the correct answer, C can be the correct answer, A, B can be correct answer. I mean, anything can be the correct answer. In fact, all the 3 can be the correct answer also. And these type of questions are very tough. Let's say the correct answers are A, B and C. You were able to get only A and B. Still this question will be counted as wrong. There is no partial marking. So these type of questions are really really tough to answer. Okay, now let me read the question. The author of the passage suggests that a dream falls short. Okay, so falls short, is it positive or negative? Falls short is positive or negative? Negative. So everybody is clear about that. When you are saying that this guy fell short of something, I fell short, so fall short is a negative thing. So this question is about the negative part of the book. So you don't have to worry about these portion. The answer will be located somewhere in from the sentence starting with yet till inadequate, right? So that's one hint you have got. Now this type of question, there is no other solution. You have to read the first option, then check whether it's the correct answer or not. Then read the second option, then again check whether it is correct or not, right? So let's read the first option. It does not recognize the representation of reality can be unreliable. Okay, so we now we go to a technique called word matching. Let's see if we see these words somewhere, right? So yes, we see representation of reality, right? So so yes, it does talk about that that it does not take into consideration. So this option is correct. We have seen representation of reality unreliable, right? Second option, it seems to focus on stylistic variety at the expense of accuracy of detail. You do not see anything, you don't see any word talking about stylistic variety, you do not see any word about accuracy of detail. So if you look for word matching, you don't see anything that is similar in meaning also in this portion of the passage. So this is not correct. If you look at option C, it offers a wealth of detail without sufficient critical examination of that detail. Okay, so we see the word detail, we see the word florid detail. So florid detail, it comes from the word flower, like so florid detail means a lot of detail, a lot of flowery detail basically. So which is a wealth of detail. So yes, we see and we also see the word critical. So there is no, and contextualization means that it is not put into context, right? So that means it's not examined with much more like in context. So you have got the word critical here, you have got the word wealth of detail. Examination is somehow related to contextualization. So see, so this question, your answer is A and C. You were able to you will be able to solve it in lesser time because you are not bothered with the rest of the passage. You are sticking only to the portion that is talking negative about the passage, right? Everybody, did you understand? I hope you were able to understand the explanation. No, Atit, I mean, I am using a marker tool, that's why I am able to mark on the screen. On the exam, you will not be able to mark on the screen. But if you practice enough, in the exam you will have line numbers, here like 10, 20 line numbers. So you can just take notes at line number 20, line number 25. So you can then go back and see there. Same passage, second question. Let me take this off. Take a minute to read the question. You have already read the passage. So when you are trying to solve this question, remember that this is the differentiation point here, right? So everything in this portion is positive, everything in this portion is negative, right? Use this information now to get to the answer. Right. So what's the question? Which of the following best describes the function of the second sentence? So second sentence is this till here. So this sentence is located in what part of the passage? The positive part or the negative part? First step. Positive. Everybody agrees with me, right? That this sentence is in the part of the passage where it is talking about positive things. So first step will be to throw out all the options that is talking negative. So let's see. Give examples of how a dream presents fascinating portraits that display awareness, tenuous. Okay, so it's not. So now look at this. The tenuous nature representative of reality. Where do you find this? Tenuous nature. So definitely the tenuous nature part is coming after the sentence. So this is wrong. To elaborate on how a dream fulfills the author's childhood criteria for a pleasurable book. Okay, this makes sense, but let's read. To suggest that the author enjoyed a dream for reasons more sophisticated than the reasons she enjoyed certain books as a child. No, because that portion starts, as an adult I to demand more. So this is in the negative part of the passage, which the author, the adult part is coming after the sentence. So that's why your C is not the answer. Look at D. To illustrate ways in which the author finds a dream to be inadequate. No, we are still in the positive part. Out. To imply that a dream is too varied in focus to provide a proper contextualization. Again, this is negative, and moreover, all these negative things, the contextualization or the tenuous nature, all of it is coming in the negative portion, and our sentence in the positive portion. So this is out. So your correct answer is B. Right? Everybody, those of you who tried to use the positive negative part of the passage to solve these questions, did you find it easier to solve it? Great. So GRE is about strategies. You have to solve like 20 verbal questions in 30 minutes. In those 30 minutes you have to read the passage also. This is a very smaller passage, but those of you who are preparing for GRE, you will know that there are like tons of longer passages also. So while reading, first step, when you are reading the passage, don't read mechanically. Okay, try to identify the flow. I wish I had more time. I could have done some sessions on RC also. Maybe maybe I might someday. But the idea is to identify the different things that are being discussed and the line numbers where they start. Right? Start when you are reading the passage. Make notes. In this case, for instance, in line number, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, 4. So your note should say 4, 1 to 4 positive, then 4 to the end, like greater than 4 negative. This should be your note. So try taking your notes like this. Then it will, and this is a very short passage, but as I said, in longer passages your notes have to be far longer also. But while reading the passage, I keep repeating this. Please look out for the structure and the flow of the passage more than just randomly reading. Okay. So everybody got. I hope you found at least the little bit of strategies for RC is helpful. Try it now going forward. Whenever you are reading the passages, or those of you who are studying on your own, or the ones who are in the classes, just try these little tricks. I'm sure you'll get results. I'm pretty sure you will get. See, Atit, now one thing you should do is that in GRE, let's say you have look at the number of questions associated with the passage. If you get a very long passage and only one question, I would strongly advise that you read the question and then look for the answer. But if it's a long passage with 3 questions, then obviously you will have to read it. Okay. So and you should also look at the amount of time you have got left. I mean, you have to solve the GRE paper intelligently, you know. There's no standard rule that, okay, if you get the passage, first read the passage. No, there's no standard rule like that. If there is like only one question and like long passage, read the question and then look for the answer. That might be more helpful. On the other hand, if you are really bad at reading, really bad at reading, and you can't remember what you have read, you know, then I would advise you that for long passages, read paragraph wise. Read the first paragraph, see if you have any questions related to the first paragraph. Remember, in GRE you can like skip questions and go forward or backward, and then you read the second paragraph. So if you are really bad at reading, then sometimes, again, this is very subjective. Some of my students, they come back and say that they find reading passages in paragraph wise helps them, you know, while some students, they come back to say that, well, it actually took them longer. So try it out, find whatever works for you. Okay. Abhijit, your question is, does it happen when they ask questions from paragraph 4? Does the answer come from paragraph 6? Very rarely, very rarely. See, if it is a question like, you know, primary purpose or the tone of the passage, in that case the answer will be like related to the overall passage. But otherwise, if they are asking for something that is appearing in paragraph 4, answer will be in paragraph 4. So anybody has tried out the reading the passage paragraph wise technique? If you are facing trouble with RCs and if you are not good at reading, try that out, see if it will help you. As I said, some students find it helpful, some students don't find it helpful. See, Abhijit, again, you know, there is no 100% rule. It totally depends on the question. Sometimes, you know, there you might be asked about something and the location is there in 3 paragraphs. What do? So you will get a hang of it once you do more practice. Okay, moving on. So some small things to keep in mind while preparing. As I said initially, quality over quantity. A lot of students, they come to me, they say, oh, I have memorized 3000 words. Well, you know, you don't have to memorize 3000 words. Probably that much time and effort you could have spent elsewhere, you know. Moreover, there will be students who would say, okay, I have done the 4 Jambori books, you know, now I want to do this book, that book, or I have downloaded stuff from the internet. So highly inadvisable. Basically, stick to quantity, quality more than quantity. What that means is that let's say you are doing some questions and you got it right, but you have to be 100% sure why the other options are wrong. Remember, no matter how many questions you do, the questions will never ever be repeated in the GRE exam, right? So it's not that you do 1000 questions and maybe one of them will come in the exam. It's not like that. The questions that you will do now, whether it's Jambori material or whether it is official GRE material, those questions will not be repeated. So the objective is to find the strategy. The objective is to practice the rules and the strategies. The objective should not only be to get the question correct. Sometimes you are stuck between 2 options and you go with one and you get it correct, but it does not mean that you got that question correct. You know, on exam day, if you are unlucky, you might have probably ended up choosing the other option, which would have been wrong, right? So while preparing, if you are spending half an hour to do 20 questions, spend another half an hour analyzing those questions. After you are done, analyze. Are you 100% sure why the other options are wrong? You know, if you don't do it, then you are not preparing well. And if you do this, then there is no way in the world that you will be able to do 4 or 5 books, right? Okay. Time management, very important. The GRE paper, if I give it to you today and ask you to do it in 2 days, all of you will get 340. What makes GRE difficult is that you have to do those questions in certain time limit. That's why the focus should be on strategies and tricks and all of those. Moreover, it's not easy to sit for such a long time. Even if you are students, your exams are 3-hour exams, I'm assuming. But think about it. If you have got an exam on physics, then for the entire 3 hours you are actually doing physics related stuff. If you have a maths exam, then for the entire 3 hours you are doing maths related stuff. But in GRE, you start with writing 1 hour of essays. 2 essays you write in 1 hour. Then you move to math, then verbal, then math, then verbal. So a lot of mental flexibility is required. Mental flexibility plus physical stamina, right? So both these things have to be developed. GRE is an extremely difficult exam because of the time thing, and the mental flexibility that is required. I'm sure all of you can understand if I tell you that when you are writing an essay, you are in a totally different frame of mind. The moment you get a math question, you have to kind of switch to a different frame of mind, different type of skills. Again, when you get a verbal section, you have to you have to be another frame of mind. So that requires practice. So my advice to you would be is that once you are done, with your preparation, take full length test. I see students take tests but they don't write the essays. So that is not considered full length test. That will not help you in your GRE preparation. Moreover, even when you are like preparing now, while you are in the middle of your classes or whatever, don't do like maths one day, verbal other day. Don't do that. Even if you are studying for only 1 hour for GRE, every day, half the time should be for maths and half the time should be for verbal. So if you are learning vocab for half an hour, do some maths for the other half an hour. Remember, you have 40 points for maths and 40 points for verbal, right? So this is called like intelligent preparation. You have to understand that you have to develop the mental flexibility to switch between essays and maths and verbal, everything, right, which you don't do in your regular exams. And sitting for such long duration is also not possible. It makes it even tougher. So time management skills are something that you have to start picking right from now. As I said, how to practice is also a very important part. Okay, right. So as I said, the how to practice, that's what I mean. When you are practicing questions, spend equal time in understanding why the other options are wrong. And the interesting thing is when to practice. And this actually is mostly related to your full length test. Let's say you book your GRE exam and your GRE exam is at 12 p.m. You have got the 12 p.m. slot. Then I would strongly advise you that the last 3 full length tests, minimum 3 full length tests should be taken in this slot. Then your body will be like fully acclimatized, fully acclimatized to the testing environment. If your GRE exam is at 12 o'clock and you are taking all your full length tests at 4 o'clock, that does not help. So small things will make a lot of difference. Everybody can hear me? Am I audible? So keep this thing in mind. When you book your exam date, first of all, pick a slot that works for you. As far as possible, avoid the evening slot. So 4 p.m., 5 p.m. slots are not at all advisable, because you will be tense or worried the entire day, and during before the start of the exam itself, you will be mentally tired. So avoid the 4 p.m. 5 p.m. slot as much as possible. So Atit, if your time is 1 p.m. great. Now as you are nearing your exam date, you should start taking your full length mock test in the 1 p.m. slot, right? So that your brain gets used to working the most in that time slot. Small things, but it does make a 2-3 point difference, right? How and when to register for the exam? Keep the deadlines in mind. Ultimately, you are taking the GRE for applying, so keep the deadlines in mind, and apply once you have taken register for the exam once you have taken a few full length mock tests. While preparing, don't write on books. So you have got books, right? So if you are underlining or if you are crossing out, you are just developing some really bad habits. The GRE exam is going to be conducted on the computer, right? So, and on the computer you will not be able to underline stuff or write stuff. So while preparing itself, make sure that you are not writing, whether it's maths, whether it's verbal, doesn't matter. You should not be writing on your books, okay? Especially reading comprehension. If you are starting to underline and all, it's not a good thing. I mean, on the day of the exam, you are then in for a huge surprise. You will feel that your productivity is going down. You will make silly mistakes. So right from day one of your preparation, don't write on your books, okay? Practice on materials similar to the GRE. As I said, there are tons of material available in the market. We also have our own books, okay? But we will, Jamboree, we will be the first people to tell you that, though our material is close to GRE, it is not GRE. Only ETS provides the actual GRE material. So most of your practice should be, done, on the official materials. The official, what's the meaning of official materials? The official guide. There is quant and verbal separate practice books, and then there are the 2 ETS tests, right? So these are the official material. Official material means material published by ETS. ETS is the body that conducts GRE. So most of your practice, or while preparing, most of your practice should happen from here, right? Atit, we don't cover the quant portion in our classes because it's quite easy. You can get that in the library. The quant book is available in the library, so you can use it. Abhijit, different universities have different deadlines. So there's no, one university has usually one deadline, right? So you'll have to meet that deadline. For MS admissions and PhD admissions, the admission offers are given on a first come first serve basis. So you have to make sure that you should apply as soon as possible actually. Somebody had asked a question earlier about where to find AWA questions. So the entire AWA topic pool is available on this website. So for issue and arguments, so basically all the different types of issues or arguments that have come or will come in the GRE is available on the website. It's freely available on their website. So the best way to prepare for AWA is to pick topics from the gre.org website. Atit, the ideal way to prepare is that first you take GRE, then you take about 2 weeks, and then you prepare for 2 weeks, and then you take TOEFL. GRE, nothing should distract you from your GRE exam. So if you are preparing for TOEFL and GRE at the same time, different skills are required for TOEFL, and different skills are required for GRE. So it should not conflict with your GRE preparation. There's some myths related to the GRE. First of all, everybody thinks that the first few questions in the GRE exam are more important. This used to be the case earlier, but not anymore. All the questions in GRE are equally, you have to try to get each question correct. There is also a myth that you must get 320 plus to get admission in top colleges, but this is not at all true. I think in one of my earlier webinars I had covered this, that let's say somebody gets a 150 in quant and 160 in verbal, and somebody has 117 maths and 130 in verbal. So this becomes 310, and this is 300. But if you are applying for engineering related programs, this will still be considered better than this. Because for engineering programs, science related programs, in the maths section you should get at least a 158 to 160, right? Yes, Pramat, the AWA topics come from that pool. So yes, they do, they repeat. Another myth is that you need to be very good in maths and English to ace the GRE. I think I have already kind of showed you that you don't have to be good in maths or English. You have to be good in only that amount of maths or English that is getting tested on the GRE. You must have a good vocabulary to get a good score. I have already shown you that no, you do not need to have a good vocabulary. Even if you get everything related to vocabulary wrong, you still have a chance of getting a 330. Ultimately, it's just about 10 points that get tested on, corely on vocabulary. Now this is another important thing in the GRE. In each section, all of you know that you can skip questions, right? That you look at a question, if you are not able to solve it, you can skip and go to the next question. Then and then you can come back and solve it later. So everybody thinks that it's a great option, but it actually is very, very negative. Never ever skip a question. What happens is that if you are seeing a question, you take about, let's say, 1 minute or 1.5 minutes to solve the question, and you are not sure, so you skip. When you come back to the question, you will again have to invest that 1.5 minutes. So it's like 3 minutes per question, minimum 3 minutes per question it will end up taking you. So let's say that you have got a question, you have solved it, and you are not very sure whether that's the correct answer or not. Still go ahead and mark the answer and mark that question for review. Do not skip questions. If you are not sure of an answer, mark it for review later on. So after you are done with the rest of the questions, you can then revise the questions that you had marked for review. Otherwise, you will end up again solving it. So do not skip questions. It's not a great option. Do not skip questions. Mark an answer that you think at that point is the best, and then mark that question for future review. If you have time later on, you review that question. Even if you don't have time later on, at least there is you have marked an answer. It's not that it will be vacant, it will be empty, right? There's no negative marking. So obviously, but if you of the 5 options, there's a 20% chance of each option being correct, right? But if you are not marking any option, then you have actually no chance of getting it correct even by luck. Another common myth is that GRE is the only admissions criteria. All of you, I think by now, most of you are Jamboree students, that I'm sure you probably know that it's not the only admissions criteria. And we have done a webinar on this, I think, a couple of weeks ago. We discussed about all the admissions criteria. So I just also wanted to show some of you who are not Jamboree students. I also wanted to show you the way we teach vocabulary. So we club words into different groups. So these for this, let's say, dispassionate, egalitarian, equitable, even-handed, and objectivity. So they all mean impartial. Yes, there are some minute differences or some differences among the meanings of these 5. But if you remember all of them as impartial, then it's actually less things for you to remember. So all similar meaning words are clubbed into a group, and if you just remember the group name, you don't have to kind of memorize the meanings of individual words. So it makes your work a little bit easier, right? Instead of memorizing word wise, you are kind of memorizing them in groups. It does clusters, it makes, yeah. So summary, your question is how to remember all those words. So what you should do is that for each group, like for in this case A1 to there are 5, so for each group memorize how many words are there, right? And when you're revising, just go alphabetically, that for D it's dispassionate, is there anything for E, is there anything for F. So just try to revise alphabetically. That helps. So for every group, if you just remember how many words are there, then it will be easy for you to revise. And yes, learning words is always boring. It's never easy. There is no shortcut. We are just trying to make you work as less as possible, but at the end of the day, you still need to work a bit. Okay, so why are you guys taking the? So basically, the only reason why you are taking GRE is to get admission in a college. That is the only reason. Not that it's your hobby, or not that it's going to help you in your future job, or it will help you getting good marks. Nothing. You are taking GRE only and only to get admission in a college. So be very, very, very clear about your objective behind taking the GRE, right? I'm sure all of you know it, but sometimes in the middle of while preparing for GRE, a lot of students lose the focus. They end up focusing on the GRE score instead of focusing on the reason behind the GRE. So while you are preparing for GRE, you should have a short list of universities ready. Let's say there's a university A, and for your profile to get admission, maybe you need a 300 plus. And the deadline for this university, let's say, is December 1. I'm just giving you example, Then let's say there is some university B. To get admission for your profile, you need a 310 plus, and the deadline is January 1st. Or let's say there is university C, and to get admission you need again 310 plus. Deadline is December 15. So similar, this kind of just have a short list of universities ready for about 12 to 15 colleges, so that you can now focus your GRE preparation. Let's say your dream university is A, for whatever reason, maybe because it gives a lot of scholarship, or maybe because you have your relatives staying in that city. Whatever reason, let's say your dream university is A. Then the first thing is that the deadline is December 1. What this means is that you have to take your GRE and TOEFL by that time. So you should plan your exams accordingly. Second thing is that for your profile a 300 plus is required. Okay, so if you are getting 290 or 280 in your practice test, then just go talk to your faculty, ask how you can touch that 300. On the other hand, if you are already getting 320, 310 in your practices, then no need to put in extra effort to get a 330. Go and give the exam. So unless you have a short list of universities ready while your GRE preparation, then it's actually not meeting the final objective of getting admission. Remember, you are taking GRE to get admission in universities. You are not taking GRE to get a 320 or 330. There's a difference. There's a difference in those two things. So if you are already a Jamboree student, talk to your center manager and meet an admissions counselor. You don't have to you don't have to pay anything for an admission session. So just get your profile evaluated. It will help you a lot. Otherwise it's like playing cricket. You are a side batting second, and you don't even know what score you are chasing, right? So unless you have a shortlist, unless you have this shortlist ready, your GRE preparation actually remains incomplete. Okay, Pramath, your question is, when 4-5 lists are covered, they are difficult to remember each word exactly in which group it is. Although we recognize the word, but can't recognize exactly which list. So Pramath, that will come only with practice. Go on the Jamboree Education, your platform. There are a lot of vocab quizzes there, a lot of flashcards there. Just use them, practice them as much as possible. Abhijit, GRE is a requirement for PhD only in the US. All other, if you want to go to other countries, you don't need the GRE. So if you want to go to, let's say, UK or Australia, New Zealand, you don't need GRE. Right, then, so this is the place, this is the link where you get all the where you get actually basically deadlines of 2-3 common topics, 2-3 common majors: computer science, electrical engineering, mechanical kind of programs. You get the deadlines of the top universities. In case you want a one-on-one session, for your profile evaluation or anything, or somebody, I saw that some of you asked questions about the online tutoring of GRE. Any kind of questions that you may have, please drop an email at this email ID. Those of you who have missed the earlier 2 webinars, please go to this link. You will get the recording. You will get the recording of those 2 webinars. Okay, then, thank you guys. I am done from my end. Whatever information I had to give out today, I am done from my end.